Please, if you've got, oh, there we go, that's a new thing. If you've got any questions, please just call them out, shout out. Obviously this is a session for you to get the most out of it. You know, don't be worried about asking what you think might be silly questions, because that's exactly what I'm here for, and I'd rather answer them now rather than you sort of sit and not know what you're doing for a few months or a few weeks or even a few months. But one thing I am going to say straight away, because this often gets missed and I often forget to tell people this, but everything apart from this white housing unit, and then that's a silly thing to say, but I will just clarify that, everything is dishwasherable. Dishwasher, is that a verb? You can put everything in the dishwasher. So if you want to, I'm going to get started straight away on taking the bowl apart, because this is also something that customers find quite tricky when their Thermomix arrives, especially if they might have sort of, it's like arthritis in their hands. That this part, the base of the bowl assembly is very stiff the first couple of times you take it off, and then it just loosens off. So what you want to do, and I'm going to try and do this back to front, can you see there's a sort of a lug here and then the handle that I'm holding? If I just twist, you'll notice I put a T-tab down, okay? If I just twist that just off to the side, then the blade inside drops out, okay? So that's the first thing. And then I always dishwasher my bowls generally at the end of every day. You know, I'll pre-wash in the middle, and I use a little washing up brush just to clean it out in between what I'm doing. And then most days I will put them in the dishwasher at the end and run it, because they just come up really clean like that. So to put the blade back in, you do it sort of the other way around. So you drop it in from the top, and then you put your hand in to hold the blade on the top part, flip it upside down like that, and then pop the base off center, and then just click it together. So, and I would always recommend taking the blade out, purely because I just think, you know, it means that it can get thoroughly cleaned underneath. So if you're going to put it in the dishwasher, I would always take the blade out. Plus, the other thing is there's a recess here on the base, and I just get dirty dishwater pooling in there when I empty my dishwasher. So I rarely wash this unless this has got covered in something. This bit rarely goes in the dishwasher. It's just that and the lid. Now, often people complain that their lid, well, if you're cooking a lot of food with garlic in it, so curries or sort of bologneses, things like that, often the lid will take on a sort of a garlicky smell. So the dishwasher is quite good at getting rid of that. But if you have a particularly strong sense of smell, you might want to think about getting another lid. It's this rubber seal here, you see, which tends to, the fragrances seem to sort of be attracted to it. So if you don't want to go to the expense of buying a whole nother bowl just to do sort of sweet stuff or more neutral flavored things, I'd recommend buying another lid, and they're very cheap. They're only sort of maybe 16, 17 pounds, something like that. And you can order them directly off the website. Okay. So this part of the lid is called the measuring cup. It's called the measuring cup because inside it actually is a measuring cup. So you've got a 50 ml measure, which is up to halfway, and then a 100 ml measure, which is fully up to the top. So this I find quite useful, and only tweaked recently. If I'm making pancakes or crepes, when I've made my mixture up in the Thermomix, I use my measuring cup then as a cup to measure out the amount of batter that I require into the pan. So it means I'm using less equipment all the time. You know, I don't have to get something else dirty. So every part of the Thermomix is designed to be quite multifunctional. So you've got the simmering basket here. So this is the simmering basket. And you'll notice that it's got a hinge on one side and then a vent on the other. And it's the vent that sits opposite. The hinge always goes next to the handle of the bowl. I mean, I don't think you can, you probably could fit it in the other way, but it's always best to put the hinge part opposite the handle here and have the vent by the pourer. And I'll tell you why, and you'll have probably seen this on demos because we often demonstrate this. But here's the spatula that comes with your Thermomix, and there's a little hole in the simmering basket, and you can just hook the spatula in and pull it out if it's hot. So often it's called a simmering basket because it sits inside the Thermomix bowl with something like either rice or vegetables in it, which are usually cooking over some form of stock or sauce. So it will get very hot, and it's quite tricky to remove unless you've got your spatula, and then you can just pull it out really easily. So that's one part of the clever design. The other part is on the lemonade recipe, you're asked to insert the simmering basket, and if you've not seen lemonade before, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's quite an odd thing to be asked to do. But the reason why we do it is because there's a vent there opposite the pourer, and you can actually filter your lemonade straight through it. So that's really clever. You can use it, you can use it as a sieve. So if you travel a lot and you've got a motorhome or a caravan and you take it camping with you, it's absolutely brilliant because it means you don't need to take loads of different bits of equipment. You just take your Thermomix. So you can I often use this as a sieve to drain things. I often use the Varoma as a colander. Another little tip with the Varoma, let me just put that back. Another little tip with the Varoma is you might want to think about getting another Varoma lid if you haven't got two bowls. Actually, I didn't think the Varoma comes with a bowl assembly anymore. But if you haven't got two Thermomixes, why not? You'll all be clamoring for them next year. You might want to get a second lid purely because I find it really helpful when that's been cooking away and hot. The lid doubles as a sort of a tray for the base when you remove it, but then if you want to keep things warm, you either have to cover it with foil or sort of decant it into another tub or something. But actually, if you've got a second lid, you can just put the second lid over the top. You've got a lid underneath, and then you can just pop it to the sides and it will stay really warm. And then the tray underneath will catch all the drips, which is really handy. Another great feature of the lid, which sometimes if you've been a member of my group for a while, you'll have seen this. You can use this central part as like a funnel. So if you've here's some strawberry jam that we made last night, and you could just fill your jam jar using that as a funnel. So you just pop that over the top and then pour your jam in. So again, brilliant. You don't need a jam funnel. You don't need to dirty any other equipment. So that's really good for anything like that you make, chutneys, jams, pickles, anything that's sort of slightly runny and you want to pour into a jar without making a huge mess. So that's quite handy. This is called it's a splatter guard, I think they call it. Might be called something else, but its general purpose is as a splatter guard. So that will just be placed over the Thermomix lid when it's asked for. So this is usually when you're doing something like high temperature sautéing, or cooking off onions or meat, something like that at a high temperature. You put the splatter guard on and it allows the steam to escape, but it just means that you haven't got hot oil and fat sort of spitting out everywhere. With the previous TM5, we didn't used to have one of these, but we did used to. Often the recipe would call for, and some of the recipes still call for this simmering basket to be put on the top like that. Okay, so again, that will do the same sort of job. And last night when I made jam, it actually asked me to put my Varoma dish on the top like that. So, and that works really well because of course the jam does actually come up and make quite a mess, but the mess is all contained in here and then it sort of condenses back down. So it's a really, really clean way of doing it. The other quite cool thing with the simmering basket is if I just hook that spatula back into there, is you'll notice there's a little recess on the handle here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that the handle sort of, you see all my mess behind me now, and that's because the spatula, this sort of plate part of the spatula, is designed to just sit in the recess of the handle so that the simmering basket drains down as well. So again, that's really clever, and that's a little trick that some owners might not have seen before. But generally we do try and cover stuff like this at the demos because it is really useful to know and find out about your machine. Right, so let's just get that out. Okay, so I'll come back to the functions on my machine. So this often, the dial with the screen with the 3 dials is called the home screen. So if you ever hear the home screen referenced, it's this one. Your first dial is your time dial, and you'll notice when I've tapped that, it's gone big, it's enlarged. And so whichever dial is larger than the others is the dial that is going to be operated by this silver button. So if I turn my silver button, I'm increasing my time. If I turn it the other way, I'm reducing my time. If I tap the temperature button, then this silver button here is going to operate the temperature function. So I can move my temperature all the way around from 37, which is body temperature, used for usually proving fermenting bread or bringing your water and yeast and sugar up to sort of 37, 40 degrees, ready for when you want to make your dough, all the way round to what they call varoma. So this is frequently something that stumps new customers, is that they'll say, oh, it says varoma. What does it mean by varoma? Because I thought this is the varoma. And the varoma, it is both things. It's both the temperature on this dial and the actual dish that is used for steaming. So the varoma just means steaming. And it was a combination, I can't quite remember now what it was. I did post in the group a few months ago. I came across where it came from. I think it's come from a French word. Oh, that was it. So it's a combination of vapeur, which is steam in French, and aroma or arôme. So there we go. It's used for steam cooking. And then the last dial is obviously, the last dial is the speed dial. So, and that ranges from where you've got a little gentle stir all the way round to speed 10, which is obviously quite, well, the blades are going at something like 250 kilometers an hour. So you don't want to be putting your hand in there. Now, you've got a little blade icon here at the bottom. Can you see of the speed dial? And if you tap on that, you'll notice there's a green arrow that comes on. And that means that the blades are going to be rotating in an anti-clockwise way. So they're in what we call reverse. And the reason for that is if you look at our blades, on one side, you've got a sharp edge, and one side you've got a blunt edge. So on the sharp edge, when the blades are spinning in the normal direction, so when that green arrow isn't on and they're going in a clockwise direction, that's when they are doing the chopping and the mincing and the grinding and the grating functions. And then when they're going in the other direction, that's when they're just doing the sort of the gentle stirring type function. So if sometimes you've just got to be careful. If you're cooking a risotto, the reverse will always be on, for example, when it's cooking and stirring the risotto. Sometimes it can be easy to inadvertently knock it and take it off. So I would always just double check, because if you tap the screen in slightly the wrong place, and it's going to be taken off. So I would always double check when you've seen the reverse come on, that when you actually start that particular step on the recipe, the reverse is still on and that you haven't inadvertently tapped the screen. Okay, so let's come off there. There's a little eye there, I'm interested. So varoma setting. So it's giving me some information about the varoma. And it says, make sure you have enough water in the Thermomix bowl. It evaporates in 15 minutes. So 250 ml of water will evaporate at varoma temperature in around 15 minutes. So if you're steaming something for 15 minutes and you've only got 250 ml of water, it will boil dry by the end of the 15 minutes. So if you're steaming something for a long time, you're going to need more water, probably around 500 ml, something like that. Okay, so if then I swipe left across the screen, so here's my home screen, and I'm just going to swipe left. That brings me up all my functions. So I've got my scales, which is self-explanatory really. If I just click on scales, it puts my scales on. So here I can weigh directly into the bowl. If I take my lid off, the scales are going to shoot back to a negative amount. So I just press that little green button there, which is the tare button, and it makes it 0. Now, often people think they have issues with their scales. I've lost count of the number of times I've had emails from customers saying, I think my Thermomix is faulty. I think my scales are faulty. It's not weighing properly. Generally, when that happens, it's because your Thermomix has either been pushed up against the wall or something's interfering with it. So something's sort of nestled up to it. Or you've got something caught underneath, the feet are dirty, or quite commonly the cable here has been caught underneath. It's very unusual for somebody to have a genuine problem with their scales. So I've just done my 200th, I think, personal sale. And I've only ever had one person have a genuine problem. And even then, I'm not sure that they did. I must actually follow up with that and find whether or not it did go back to the workshop. But generally, it can be resolved by looking at underneath at the feet, making sure that there's nothing sort of butting up against it, making sure the cable it has been taken out from underneath, and making sure it's not against the wall. Okay. So they are sensitive. Often they go to -1. Don't worry about it. Another quite sort of cool thing is you can actually use it as a set of weighing scales if you want to. So it means that you don't have to get any other equipment out of a cupboard. So for example, if I just quickly wanted to weigh something, I can just put my bowl on there, press tare,
Amazing.
and then I can weigh into the bowl. Okay, so you can see my scales going up. You can actually weigh whilst the Thermomix is cooking, as long as it's not going above speed 3. So you can still weigh, you can still put your scales on. So you can either do that by going into, and I'll show you this on the recipe, the 3 dots at the top of the recipe, or you can just come out of it and swipe across to the function screen and use your scales. So that scales dough is often I call need function. I don't know why I can't call it dough function, but it is the dough function. Again, a fantastic mode on the Thermomix, probably one of my favorite. I love making bread in the Thermomix. It just is so quick and easy. And, you know, generally most recipes have a 2-minute need. If you're doing your own recipe and you've weighed in all your raw ingredients, you know, your flour, your sugar, your salt, your yeast, your water or milk, whatever it is, you can then set your own kneading time. And usually 2 minutes is enough. So I would just program in 2 minutes. Sometimes if it's a more of an enriched dough, you might go for 3. Then you click on the mode dial and you just click start, and it will start, the clock will start ticking down and it starts kneading away. Absolutely fantastic. Who here's made some fantastic bread? Yes, Sam, brilliant. Who else? Let's have a look.
My husband makes all the bread.
Oh, your husband
and he
does
could
it.
never
Excellent.
cook, so he does all the bread.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I make it too.
Oh, who's that? I can't see any
Alison.
other cameras. Yeah. Oh, Alison. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, all the time. Brilliant.
And Linda, have you had a go at bread? Nope. You're on mute, darling. Yeah, there we go.
I don't actually eat bread, but
Oh, cool. Yep.
at the end, my son made some garlic bread, and they loved it, absolutely loved it. So yeah, it was
very
good.
easy.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, I used to make all my own bread anyway, and I would make it in a KitchenAid, and I always said I didn't need a Thermomix because I got a KitchenAid, and you know, I could always knead it by hand. But then I was just blown away by the fact that I could do it in 2 minutes.
I've just actually binned my bread maker. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, So I think, I don't know where mine is. I think it's on top of a cupboard somewhere. I have a bit of a problem with hoarding kitchen equipment. I did get rid of a lot of stuff actually, but only recently.
Yeah.
But my bread machine I think still needs to go. Right, if there's a problem with a TM, would it be covered? Yes, absolutely. So the warranty is 2 years and it covers pretty much everything apart from things like the spatula, sort of things like the accessories, so the simmering basket, stuff like that, but also the blade isn't covered inside. So, you know, if there was a problem with that, it'd be highly unlikely. I mean, I use my machines pretty much industrially, and I've had my TM6s for 2 years now, never had a problem. I've not replaced the blades either. They do recommend in the manual that depending on the sort of use it's getting, hang on, I did see my manual in a drawer somewhere. Here we go. Wow. Hope you've all been reading yours. Nice bit of bedtime reading. My husband always says to me, you never read the manual. And actually it's very true. I didn't read the manual until I happened to look at it for somebody else. And then I saw about the blades in here. Yes. So here we go. In here, it's on page 20. They call it the mixing knife, actually. And it says, if you use it heavily, and that by that it defines it crushing ice daily and milling flour, you would need to replace it after 6 months. Well, I don't know anybody unless they were using it in a bakery that would be doing that. If moderate use, I crush ice weekly, mill flour weekly, after you would replace it after 2 years. And low use, so I hardly ever crush ice or mill flour, so that probably applies to me. They recommend that you replace your knife after 4 years. Now, I've known advisors who have been in this business 8 to 10 years and they've never replaced a knife. So, you know, I think it just depends on the sort of use it's getting and actually what type of recipes you're doing. Okay. So yes, to answer your question, everything is covered by the guarantee, apart from these sorts of things, which is, you know, fair enough, because these can get damaged quite easily by not even, you know, by dropping them on the floor or in the dishwasher or whatever. But it's the knife that you would need to purchase, and that's about 50 quid. So again, it's not a huge amount. Okay, right. Let's just go back to, so again, to get back to the mode screen, I swipe left. Alexa, is Thea all right? So turbo, I've got the turbo function. Oh, it doesn't want to go on. Here we go. So you've got 2 options for turbo. Here's my dial is highlighted. You can do 1 second or 2 seconds. And that just means the length of time, obviously, it's going to run for. So in order to operate it, once the time has been set, you then press the mode button, and then you can just give it a couple of blasts, something like that. So I usually liken that to the sort of the turbo function on a food processor. So turbo is really useful for the pulse function, rather. Turbo is really useful for something like chopping coffee beans, grinding coffee beans into powder. Again, grinding sort of grains into flour. When else would I use turbo? If you just wanted to chop some nuts actually and make breadcrumbs, you could do it using the turbo. I often as well, if I'm just giving my Thermomix a quick swish out in between what I'm cooking, and I don't want to wait for the pre-clean function to run, I just put some water in with my washing up liquid and just give it a few blasts on turbo, and that seems to do the trick really quickly. So it's quite a useful function. Then the pre-clean function sort of does what it says on the tin, really. You would pour enough water to cover the blades. Now they say a maximum of 1 litre. So to cover the blades, you're looking at about 500 to 750 ml of water and a bit of washing up liquid, not loads, because it will end up blowing bubbles, which is always quite fun. And then you can then just select what you've been making. So if you've been making dough, you would just twist this dial, the silver dial here, until you get to dough. If you've just been doing general, if you've been working with sort of something that's particularly greasy, you can use the fat or caramel setting. And then if you've got a browned base, then apparently you can use the browning cleaning mode. But in reality, I don't actually find that mode particularly helpful. I think if you've got a brown base, you're best off just putting it in the dishwasher, which usually gets rid of it. Or you can do a clean with sort of eggshells and lemon and bicarbonate of soda. And I think that's mentioned in my welcome document. But if it isn't, it's certainly on the customer group. So if you search for something like eggshell wash or eggshell clean on the customer group on Facebook, you will undoubtedly find how to do it. Then you've got the blender, so pretty self-explanatory. The temperature dial is always set as a default to 30, but if you want to increase it, you can. And then you've got 4 or 5, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different speeds for blending. So you can see if I cycle round, there you go, they run between 6 and 8. So just depending on what you've got in there. And that you would use for things like, I think you can do hummus on it, or you can do, you know, mixed smoothies, stuff like that. But again, if the function is going to be required as part of the guided recipe, it will automatically come on. This is just if you're using it manually. So these are all the sort of manual modes that you can program yourself. But if you're following a guided recipe, the mode will automatically come on for you, and you just need to press start, and I'll show you that on a recipe. Then we've got egg boiler. I've not actually used this mode. I like, as I said in my demo last week, I still steam my eggs in here because it makes them really easy to peel. But the egg boiler is great. I've got quite a few customers that say it's their favorite mode. You can cook up to 6 eggs. They recommend you use them straight from the fridge, and this is why I never use this mode, because I don't keep my eggs in the fridge. They always sit at room temperature, so I never know where I am with it really. But then you add your water, you put in your lid, and then you can choose your cooking point of the egg yolk. So you can choose from soft, medium, medium soft, medium hard, and hard. And then it will automatically cook for you. So here are all the choices. So again, the time dial will be set depending on which you choose. Okay. Oh. So if you go for hardboard, it's going to take about 19 minutes. Okay. Then you've got the kettle, again, self-explanatory. You put your water in, you select what temperature you like. That's quite good actually if you're making coffee in a cafetiere, because you can actually, if you don't have a sort of a boiling water tap or a fancy kettle, which you can select your temperature that you want it to boil or heat up to, you can actually heat your water up to, I think it's 80 or 85 degrees that they recommend for coffee, so that it doesn't burn and it just sort of brews your coffee at the optimum temperature for the best flavour. So you can obviously select what temperature you want, and then you can just start the kettle. Great if you've got a motorhome or you're touring around camping, because of course you don't need to take all these extra bits of equipment with you. The warm-up mode. Now this mode is best off used with your butterfly whisk. And let me just find the butterfly whisk. I've got loads of them, so it shouldn't be too difficult. So this is the butterfly whisk. They do recommend that you use this with the warm-up mode, just because it encourages a more even cooking, right? And it just moves the food around more evenly. To put your butterfly whisk in, you just drop it over the top of the blades like that, and then you just give it a little turn. Can you see that? Just a little turn. So it just sits up next to one of the blades. To all intents and purposes, it's locked into position, but there's a bit of resistance there, but if you do try, you can pull it out. So don't think, oh, I pull it out so it's not locked in. Actually, as long as you've given it that little twist in between the blades, it's locked in and it won't come out. Okay, so that's the whisk. Thicker mode, brilliant for doing things like bechamel, hollandaise gravy. You just chuck all your ingredients in and click thicken, and it sort of the cooking time varies depending on what it detects that you've got in there, what volume of ingredients, you've got sort of what temperature you want to cook it to. So again, don't worry too much about that, because of course, if you follow a recipe for something like a white sauce or a hollandaise or like a gravy, sort of a pan gravy, then it will automatically come on and you don't need to worry about fiddling about with the temperature. This is just so that, you know, chefs can use it and then they've got full manual control over the dials. And then you've got your rice cooker. So my advice with a rice cooker is, if you want to use it, there is a collection on Cookie Do. So go and find that collection, and I will show you where to find the collections on Cookie Do when we look at Cookie Do in a minute. You've got your fermentation function, which is used for yogurt. And I just think it's absolutely brilliant being able to ferment yogurt in here. I put all my little jars, so I've got some jars here, which I thought I was going to make some yogurt tonight, and then realised that I don't actually have any milk to do it with. So I'm going to have a trip to the supermarket tomorrow. But you put all of your jars into your Varoma with the sort of the raw milky yogurt base inside them, and the lid on. They're little lids on. So these jars are available from Amazon. In fact, next month maybe for customers, Thermomix are bringing out yogurt jars, so which will be Thermomix branded and are designed to sit perfectly inside the Varoma. And there's 8 of them in a pack, which is brilliant, because if you buy these jars, you get something like 12 in a pack, and you can't actually fit them all in. I make loads. I make about 20 or 22 jars of yogurt at a time, because I use both my Thermomixes to ferment. So again, when you make yogurt, you would just follow the instructions on the screen. And when the fermentation function comes on, if I put it on here, you can read, there's a little bit of information here saying you can ferment certain foods at a temperature, set the time up to 12 hours, as well as a temperature between 37 and 70. So you can ferment both yogurt and dough, which is brilliant actually. I often speed up pizza dough in here by heating water in the mixing bowl. So you add water to the mixing bowl. Now, it does recommend that you add juice of half a lemon. I think you only really need to do that if you're fermenting for a very long period of time, like with yogurt. And then you would just select your temperature. So when I do my yogurt, it's automatically programmed. I mean, I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, this is far too much information, but it will tell you, you see, it's automatically programmed at 70. And you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's quite high. That's going to be really hot. But don't forget, your water might be at 70 in here, but it's not going to be at 70 up here. So you're just going to get that residual heat rising, and in here you've got a beautiful optimum temperature of 37 degrees. So that's why mostly when you are fermenting and using the Varoma to ferment inside, you would have a temperature of about 70 degrees in the bowl. Okay, so the slow cooker, again, I don't really use the slow cooker very much, but it's automatically set for 8 hours. And then you can select your time and your temperature. But I wouldn't probably cook, if I was cooking in a slow temperature, I'd cook somewhere between 85 and 90 really, which is sort of simmering point. And then you would just click that to start slow cooking. Okay. And then sous vide. So you've got sous vide, which is a very chefy, really way of cooking. All it involves is cooking food in a sealed bag, like one of these, a zip seal bag. So if you want to have a play with it, you will need a blade cover. Let's just move that out of the way. And then to put the blade cover in, you'll notice that there's a sort of a slightly elevated side and then a kind of a recessed side. And so you have the elevated side up, and actually you've got the little icons here to say it can go in the dishwasher and that you can do it at maximum speed 1. So you pop your blade cover in, that just sits on top of the blades. Just give it a little twist like that, can you see? And then you would fill your jug up with water. You would then use your kettle function to bring all of that water up to the correct temperature that you want to use to sous vide. So, and that will depend on what you're cooking and how well you want it cooked. So, for example, is most often used with steak. And if you've got a butcher that will do this for you, where have we got it? So here, actually in my freezer, but I've got a lovely bit of fillet steak, you see, in a vacuum sealed pouch already. So my butcher will just vac seal me chicken breasts or steak. Now, the disadvantage of having it already done is you can't season it or flavor it whilst it's cooking. You have to do it afterwards. But all I would do then is have, if I wanted to cook a piece of fillet steak like that, I would fill this up to the maximum volume. I would bring it up to something like 50 or 55 degrees, and I would drop that in that airtight sealed bag, and I'd cook it for about an hour. So that will mean that when you pull this out and open a bag, the meat is really tender. It's like once you've sous vide'd steak, you probably will never ever go back to wanting to cook it in any other way. And then I just finish it in a hot pan, and just seal it in some butter. We did a really good cooking class back in January. It was called the Valentine's Day cooking demonstration. We did it at the end of January, so it's on my YouTube channel. And I demonstrated how to sous vide a fillet steak there. I think it might have been, I don't know if it was a fillet. Yes, I think it was a fillet actually. And I actually sealed it first before I put it into. So the other trick, if you don't have a vacuum sealer or a butcher that can do it for you, is you can use just a normal one of these bags, but you've got to make sure you expel all the air. And the way you do that is you have a big bowl of water, and you submerge in the water without actually submerging the opening, because obviously you don't want any water in there. And you use the weight of the water to dispel the air. It's called the water, or displace the air. It's called the water displacement method. If you want to Google it, there'll be loads of videos on YouTube. And again, on my customer group, there is a video of me showing you how to do it. So that just means, I'm being pulled by a 2-year-old, but thankfully she's gone. That just means, at least it's not my husband, eh? He's not here tonight, which is even better. Normally he's cleaning in the background, putting me off my game. Yeah, that just means you dispel all the air, and if you don't have a vacuum sealer, which again I think Thermomix are bringing out, which is really good news, and will hopefully be available on the website. If not next month, it will be from September. You can just use one of these, and that's all, to be fair, I've ever used, that or my butcher. So that's probably, you're now all thinking, oh my God, I'm confused. I'm really confused. But actually, that's why we do demos. So I'm doing this to give you an overview of what's possible. But if you want to see it in action, then join our demos, because this is when we really get into detail with all the different modes, and we explain to you how they work. So demos and cookery classes are where you find out more. And that's it on that function screen, and we're hoping little by little, because your Thermomix just gets better with age, unlike other kitchen appliances and gadgets which just go out of date as soon as you bought them, because they're constantly bringing out a new model. The Thermomix will be updated via software updates. So we've already got a load of new functions in the 2 years since it was brought out. So they're the modes. I'm going to now show you some of the search, and then we'll look into Cookie-Do in a bit. When I search, I always press that search icon rather than going into the search toolbar on the front. I just find the search much more successful. Okay, so hopefully you've all set up your filters correctly, and you do this when you first set up your Cookie-Do account, or if you've already got your Cookie-Do account and you haven't set them up. I think that light is now really annoying me because it's right on my screen. Let's see if I can get it out of the way. Oh no, it's still like that. Oh, there it fits. Hang on, see if I know it's still there. Oh well, I'm sorry. I am trying to sort of minimize it, but it's still right there. When you set up your profile, scroll down to preferences, and then you'll find it will say something like country. Oh God, let me just go down. It says country and language. So you really want to make sure you've got your English language button ticked, and then your country, you need to make sure you've got your UK clear. Because if you, this is the common mistake people make, is if you still have a tick in that UK country box, you're still only going to be finding the UK recipes, and that's a quarter of what's available. And you know, the Australian, I do a lot of Australian and a lot of American recipes, and you'll be missing out on a lot of options if you don't set up your filters correctly. But it's very easy through Cookie Do. So you can filter on lots of different things. So you can play about with that, you know, whether it's advanced or easy, how long you want to spend preparing, total cooking time, you know, what sort of, the other thing that's quite handy to do is you can search a tag. So you could put in there, for example, vegetarian or vegan or plant-based. And, you know, if I put a tag of vegan in here, it's bringing me up over 700 results. You can see, so these are recipes that have been tagged as being vegan recipes. Okay, then so let's go back to the search. So just to search, you click in the toolbar and you search for, I don't know, let's search for courgette. I think they're coming into season, aren't they? So let's pop in courgette, just like that. And you've got steamed courgettes. That's because I've got a French filter on, I think. I've got all sorts of like fun looking American recipes because they've got zucchini in them. Oh, that courgette and pine nut cake, that looks really nice. So if I want to cook, if I'm just searching on my Thermomix screen and I want to cook that recipe that's come up, I just click on it and I can press start cooking. If I use this arrow here, if I click on that arrow, then I can just scroll down and have a look at the recipe and find out what I need to get to hand if I'm not looking at the recipe on my tablet or phone. And then, you know, it's quite useful to look at if you're interested in the sort of the macros, it gives you the breakdown of your macronutrients. And then often there's some nice little tips and variations at the end, which are well worth looking at as well. You can find some really interesting information in there. So that's quite good. So once you start cooking, it will walk you through the recipe step by step. This is what it looks like on the screen. You just need to keep clicking next. And then exactly just follow the instructions. So you'll note my scales have reset there to 0. Sometimes if you go on to the next step and the lid is still on, and then you think, oh, I've got to take the lid off to add my ingredients, that's when your scales will go negative. So that's when you just need to reset them. So you just keep clicking next. If at any time you want to have a look at the recipe detail, you just click on those 3 dots. You can bring up the recipe detail. There it is. Just click on that arrow. I can have a look through at the overview. Then to get back into the recipe where I left off, I just click continue. So the other function on the 3 dots is the scales. So you can always put your scales on at any point in the recipe if you want to. And I often put it on if it will say things like weigh in a teaspoon of salt or a teaspoon of sugar. I often put my scales on so I know I can weigh in 5 grams, or if it's a tablespoon, I weigh in 15, just so it's a bit more precise. If we're in the recipe detail at the front and we go down, I can go, if I want to skip ahead to any of the steps, and this is what I was trying to explain to Linda last week at the demo that she could do, because it was Linda's first demo as an advisor. But you were not having it, were you? You were like, no, you kept clicking next. And you can just scroll down to whichever step in the recipe you want to skip ahead to and just click on it and it will shoot you straight there. If I come out of this recipe at any time, so if I press my home button, you'll notice I've got a green little bookmark pop up. So that's bookmarked that recipe at the, hang on, I've got Cal coming back in. That's bookmarked that recipe at the point where I left off. So I click on there and I'm straight back in that recipe. So it's just so easy. I mean, going through a recipe on a screen, I'm sure owners that have got their Thermomixes and have used them for a while will agree with me here. It's so much easier than looking at it in a recipe book, isn't it? Especially when you've got young kids and you're constantly getting distracted by something. You think, oh, hang on a minute, like, where am I? I've got my magazine out or my recipe book. What did I get up to? What am I doing? Now, hang on, what temperature do I need to do it? There's none of that. The Thermomix controls it all for you, tells you exactly where you are and what you've got to do next. So you don't even need to think about it. And this is one of the things that I find so uplifting with cooking with a Thermomix, is that there's no energy, like mental energy involved. And for some people that might be a bit of a turn off, but I think for, so especially busy mums that have had a hard day, long day, we all work a lot and we've all got other things that we could be doing, whether that's just sitting down with a glass of wine or, reading a story with your kids, whatever it is. You can do that when you've got a Thermomix, because you don't have to constantly be thinking about what the bloody thing is up to, like you do when you've got a pan on the hob. So that's really good. And then just a little overview of the menu. So how I got to the main menu was I pressed those 3 little lines there, you see? And then it brings up, so I've got access to what they call my recipes. So these are the collections, the recipe folders that you create yourself through the Cookie Do app. So I will show you that in a minute on the app. So I've got created collections. You can scroll down and then you just think, all right, I'm going to make a cake. Let's have a look through my cake folder. If it's plain ball, everybody's taken full advantage of the fact that I'm doing this, so they're all on devices. So my Wi-Fi is slower than it would be normally. And I kind of think, oh, this looks quite nice, this cake in a jar, right, I'm going to go for that. So I just click on it and it will load it straight away. So let's go back to, so if I look at, that's my created collections, then you've got saved collections. So these are the Thermomix developed recipe books. So the official collections, the official recipe books that Thermomix put together for us. So they're collections of themed recipes, and there's a collection for everything. And the way you find collections is if you go into your search, you can see up here, you're looking at recipes, because it says recipes on the screen. Can you see that? If I click that little down arrow, I can also search for collections. And this will be the same on your Cookie Do app. So it'll look exactly the same. Now, a little trick here, when you search collections, and I don't know why this happens, is that your filters will default to 0 usually. So this is bringing up loads of, the different countries. So we've got Italian, we've got Spanish, we've got German, we've got some Asian collections. And we've got that, I think that might be Dutch actually. And you probably don't want to spend time looking through all those. So you can go into your filters again, just scroll down. Now here, you cannot filter on language. It won't let you, which is really quite bizarre. I don't know why, but you just want to click on Australia. This is what happens when I try and do it from the side and I'm not face onto my machine. I think United States. Come on, I'm gonna have to turn it around now. I think UK. It's not liking that. Right, let me just try and turn it towards me so I can be front onto it. United States, and then we'll put in Canada. Canada, bless its heart, doesn't have many of them of its own right, but we'll put Canada in as well. You'll find there will be quite a bit of duplication. So different markets will bring out the same recipe book, but they'll just brand it as their own sort of their own version. Now, I've obviously got something else on here. I don't know why I've still got non-English recipes, but you'll now notice that it's a lot easier to scroll through it because, this is brilliant, this sipping on summer. So I've been making, because I'm not drinking at the moment, this Cosmopolitan mocktail. Oh, look, there's another one, Panama mocktail. I might have to have a look at that. The Cosmopolitan is absolutely delicious. And then a few of my friends have been doing this Pinot Frisio, which sounds really good. There's some really lovely recipes in there to have a look at. So that's how you look through collections as opposed to recipes. There we go, I'm offline now. Fantastic. That'll be my Wi-Fi having a hissy fit. So let's go back to recipes, and then you're just searching for individual recipes. Okay, let's just turn that around again so I can try and do it like this. So if I go back to the 3 lines on the menu, you've also got bookmarks. So these are your recipes that you can favorite and put a bookmark against them, and then they'll always appear in here. So for example, my creamy vanilla yogurt recipe is in here. I've got far too many bookmarks, actually. I might have to go and do some pruning of these. So if I scroll down to my creamy vanilla yogurt, I can just sort of show you very briefly the process, because everybody always asks me about yogurt and making yogurt in a Thermomix. So here it is. This is the one that I like to do. So you start, yes. So we follow it through. Just wants me to weigh some natural yogurt or live yogurt into a bowl, so it's ready for later. You weigh in your a litre of milk. You add some vanilla. Yes.
Sorry, does it have to be live yogurt?
I think so, because you need the live cultures in it to ferment the yogurt. Because at the end of the day, it's the bacteria in there which do the fermentation process.
Right.
So
I can't have live yogurt. That's all. And I didn't know if there was any other way of.
Yeah, I mean, you could try it with a natural yogurt. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't actually say live on there. It says natural. But I was always under the impression that it's the bacteria in the yogurt that ferment it, that will eat the sugar, which then takes out the lactose. So it eats up the sort of the natural dairy sugars, the lactose, and then converts them into yogurt.
Okay, thank you.
But you can make, plant-based yogurt. There's coconut yogurts, and again, and other yogurts like soya yogurt. So have a look at some of those recipes, because you might be able to use a version of that. So then you cook it, and for 10 minutes to 80 degrees. You then let it cool to 45 degrees. Take the yogurt, the vanilla out. Then you add your yogurt, your starter yogurt in. And I always triple this, basically, at least double it anyway. Add some sugar. So you don't have to add any sugar if you don't want to. I mean, there's enough sugar in the yogurt, in the milk anyway, that the bacteria will eat up. But if you want to sweeten it slightly, you can do. I also usually add a bit of cream as well. Then you divide it into your glass jars. Rinse the mixing bowl. You put bits of water in. Back in here, some lemon juice, because you're going to be fermenting it for ages. Put the aroma on top, and here you go. Here's your fermentation function coming on. You see 10 hours, 70, and then you just click start. And so you go to bed at that point, wake up in the morning to beautiful, beautiful homemade yogurt. So there's nothing more satisfying. Okay, so let's go back to, so my week, this is all the recipes that you plan to do for your week. I'm not a planner. You'll see it's telling me I haven't got any recipes, so there's nothing in there. And then you've got your recently cooked history. Now, it's worthwhile knowing with your recently cooked that anything in here is stored on your hard drive of your machine. So if you are going somewhere without Wi-Fi, like to a middle of a field for a couple of weeks, if you're very organized, you can save, you can load all your recipes, and I would just click through a couple of steps, because then it will go into your recently cooked folder, and you'll have all of your recipes there on your machine for you. So I've done it when we've been traveling in France, for example, and I didn't know whether I'd have access to Wi-Fi. You can hotspot off your phone. So, there is that option there if there is no Wi-Fi. But if you prefer, if you're going somewhere where there's not even a phone signal, then I would load all your recipes onto the machine, click through a couple of steps each, and then they'll automatically be found in your recently cooked folder. So that's a good little tip. Then settings, this is an important one. So first of all, the sounds, I would recommend you put your volume down to low, and the duration to 10 seconds. Oh. There is nothing more annoying than your Thermomix dinging at you for 15 minutes. I can remember when I had my 2-year-old was a baby, and I was sat there feeding her, and all I could hear was this wretched machine just binging away, and I couldn't move because she she was attached to me, and I could just feel my blood pressure rising. So now I put it low volume and 10-second duration, and it's not a problem. And this is perfect as well for with you doing yogurt, and sometimes with the yogurt, if you slightly get the timings a bit wrong, it will finish at 4 a.m. And I can remember having a very grumpy husband one morning. You want to go to bed? Yeah. Can Alexa take you to bed, darling? No. Okay. All right. Mummy will take you to bed. And Alexa read a book with you. Yes. Okay. Great. That's fobbed her off for 10 minutes. Oh, it's good having older children. Yes, and I had a very grumpy husband on my hands when the Thermomix, which is underneath our bedroom, started ringing. The alarm went off for 15 minutes at 4 a.m. So you can deal with that. And it's one of the first things I tell people. And you can play about with your melody, so you can have different tunes and whatnot, and play about with the next button. So that's handy. If you're going to transport your Thermomix, you can put it into transportation mode, so it locks the bowl in the place. I don't generally bother with that, but it's there for you. System of measurement, if you want to go into ounces, you can change it into ounces. Remember, if you're doing American recipes, it will automatically convert to that system of measurement for you. And if you ever need to do a factory reset, here we go. Here it is. It's not as scary as it sounds. It won't wipe your cookie dough up. It will just, sometimes it just gets its knickers in a twist and you need to do a reset on it, like any device really. All your cookie dough information is stored on the cloud, on an app. So what you will lose when you do your factory reset are your things like your sort of settings preferences. So for example, the volume and the duration of the alarm sound. So you would have to reset that, and you'll lose your recently cooked history as well, because that's stored on the hard drive of the Thermomix, but you won't lose anything else. So don't worry that you're going to lose all of the recipes that you've lovingly found in cookie dough. And then there's all sorts of other things. I think this is one of the updates that we had recently. Keyboard layout. Oh, okay. So you can change the keyboard if you want to. So if you're different languages, and then you can, if you want, you can fiddle about with your brightness, that sort of thing. Okay. So connected devices will be if you've got a Thermomix friend. So if I just click on that, I haven't got anything connected to it because my Thermomix friend currently is in disgrace in the garage, because I don't ever have a need to use it. I have got 3 Thermomix machines, so I don't need a friend, and I'd much rather have a second Thermomix than a friend. So yes, not sure what I'm going to do with that. It's just another piece of kitchen gadgetry that I've collected. There we go. So that's all the functions. So now what I'm going to do is just a very quick run through, if you're still with me, cookie dough. So let me just shut all my windows down. I don't want to sort of share all my photos with you. Instead, hang on, let's open cookie dough. All right, I'll get back to my screen and hopefully I should be able to just share it. Start. So hopefully have you all registered on cookie dough? Now you'll have to call out here because I can't actually see you guys on my screen now. I'm sharing it. So let me just go on to cookie dough. Can you see the cookie dough? Now you should see the cookie dough. Yep. Yeah. So if you're very new owners, you need to register your cookie dough account straight away, really. And so you just go onto the App Store, download the Cookie Dough app. It's a little green background with a sort of a kind of a cartoony type graphic of the Thermomix. It's free. You can put it on as many devices as you want. So you can have lots of different, people accessing it, that will just pull data to one account. So it's really important when you first set up. Can you see this little icon in the top right hand corner, this little person icon? If I click on here, this is where you set up your preferences, so that you can have English recipes as opposed to just the UK ones. So if you go into preferences, I wouldn't bother with the cooking style. I really wouldn't, because I think you'll restrict yourself too much. Here you want your language to be English, and your country. I've got country or region obviously selected to all for some reason, which is perhaps why I had lots of different other languages in there. But just make sure that your UK one is off.
Okay.
And then anything else, membership. So if you ever get Cookie Do vouchers, so if you are kind enough to host a demo for us to help us sort of grow our business and share Thermomix with some of your friends, often we give Cookie Do vouchers as a thank you to our customers for that. It's all right, darling, you've got a nappy on. You can do a wee. Sorry, just talking to my 2-year-old here, who I'm trying to potty train at the same time, but I've just reminded her she's got a nappy on, so she doesn't need to worry about it. So if we give you a Cookie Do voucher, you need to log on to Cookie Do through the website, not through the app, and then you can add your vouchers under your membership through the website. Can't be done under the account on the app. And then sort of Cookie Do is just really kind of intuitive. It's important that you sort of do set up your privacy settings to accept cookies from Cookie Do, just purely because I know you're tired. Alexa, can you just maybe put Peppa Pig on for her for 5 minutes, and then while I finish up here, because you will miss out on a lot of information. I really enjoy looking at the top picks. So these are changed on a daily basis. So they will pick out recipes based on what you search for, you save, or you cook. So obviously it's thinking that I do quite a lot of Indian food, which I do. So it's showing me some relevant recipes. Oh, and look, sous vide. Sometimes I think it listens to me as well, because obviously we've been talking about sous vide and sous vide fish as well. That's yours, is it? Okay, great. Then it will just pull your attention towards the latest recipes that have been launched. So there's some nice marinades. So I guess getting ready for barbecue season. There's some sort of little magazine articles as you scroll down, which are quite nice. So I always think this is a bit like reading the Waitrose Food Illustrated. So for example, you can look at sort of an article on ice creams or picnics, or have a good look here, because there's lots of inspiration on there to really encourage you to use your Thermomix to do lots of different things. There's always a recipe spotlight, which is quite nice. This looks lovely. Eat a mess parfait with a fresh bro sauce, lovely dinner party dish. Latest collections which have been brought out, so there's some really nice stuff in there. So actually I hadn't seen this one before, breads from around the world. So if I click on that, can you see I've got the option now to save that? So that is now going to be saved into my recipe collections. So there's some really lovely recipes in there to have a go at. That looks nice, that potato and rosemary focaccia. And of course this sipping on summer I've already got. And then there's some comfort food, which is probably more relevant for winter. And then you've got some video tutorials here with a pastry chef who is really good actually. And we developed these because it's a real breeze to make dough and pastry dough and things like sort of sweet and savoury tart cases in the Thermomix. But yeah, whilst it's a breeze to make the actual dough, we were finding that customers didn't quite understand what to do with it once the dough needed to be rolled out and to line a tin. So there's loads and loads of little video tutorials here that you can have a look at, which are really informative. And then you've got favourite recipes. So I think these must be what they used to be called most cooked. So you can have a little bit of a nose around what people across the UK are cooking. And it's always funny because after we do demos or cookery classes, we always find that the recipes we've chosen are amongst the week's most cooked. So it always makes me chuckle when I see the recipes that we've done at our classes feature in the most cooked recipes, because it means that we're doing our job properly and inspiring our customers to try different things. And then there's a little article on how you do your online shopping through Cookie Do. So that's worth looking at for the first time you use it, but I will very quickly go into that. And then articles as well, just on using your Thermomix, and again, how you can do different recipes with it. and how you can sort of use some of the different features and functions as well. So using the Varoma and what was the other one, the search feature as well, which you might find really interesting or helpful rather. So that is an overview of the front screen of Cookie Do. If you want to search, obviously you've got that little search, the magnifying glass icon at the bottom on the bottom toolbar. So you click search, you'll notice it's exactly the same recipes as you find when you search directly on the Thermomix screen. You want to make sure you've got, you see, I've got 8,861 results. You want to make sure that you've got that amount. If you've only got something like 2,000, then you've got a filter that is not quite right, and you'll only be looking at the UK recipes. So that's the search. You'll see my recipes here. They're exactly the same as they look like on the front screen. So at the top, I've got my created recipes. I've got my saved recipes. So they're my recipe collections. And then if I just go into a recipe, you can see there's 3 dots beside it. Can you see where it says banana bread? And I've got my 3 dots. If I click on those 3 dots, I've got the option. So this is where I can press cook today, and that's going to be put into my planner for today. Then I could bookmark it if I wanted to. I could add it to the collection. So I could say, oh, that looks good. I'll put it in my baking collection. I can add it to my week. So if I don't want to cook it today, but I want to cook it at some point in the future, then I can schedule it on another day. So, okay, I might cook it today, but I might cook it over the weekend, for example. So I've clicked on Saturday the 17th and clicked save. And then you can also add it to your shopping list. So you can add all the ingredients to your shopping list from there. So now if you notice, if I go into my week, I've got something scheduled in there. I've got my banana bread today and I've got my banana bread on Saturday as well. So that is how you use your weekly planner to plan out what you want to make. And that is one of the best functions for customers who are looking to save money and just get a bit more organized, because it means that you only buy the ingredients that you need. Now, if you go to your shopping list, can you see now it's telling me I've got 13 recipes on my shopping list. I can either look at my shopping list by recipe or by category. So this is, baking ingredients. So it makes it easier if you're walking around the supermarket and you think, oh, I need to pick up that. If you've already got those ingredients, look what you can do. So I know, for example, I've got baking powder. So can you see where it says I need 3 teaspoons of baking powder? I can just click in that little box and it would just disappear. Oh, I've got bicarbonate of soda, I've got sugar, I've got cocoa powder, I've got icing sugar. So you can edit this shopping list at any point, okay? Then if you want to add something to it, so if I wanted to add, for example, I don't know, that's not on the list, something like baking parchment or baking paper, I can just use that little green plus to add baking paper on there. Then when I'm happy with my shopping list, I've got all my recipes that I'm cooking for the week, or however long the period is that you're shopping for. You then go to 3 dots at the top of the shopping list on the top right. You can share it with somebody, so you can send somebody else to the supermarket for you, which sounds like a good plan if you want to, or you can order your ingredients. So if you click order ingredients, you then choose your store. So at the moment, we've only got Ocado, really Waitrose and Sainsbury's on there, which actually I do find a lot of people shop at. We used to have Asda and Tesco, but there's just a slight bug at the moment with some of their software integration, which they need to resolve. It's not our end that we've got the issue, it's their end. So we are just waiting for their technical teams to try and resolve it. But if you click on a store, so let's have a look at Sainsbury's, what it's going to look like at Sainsbury's. So if I go to Sainsbury's, thinking about it, I think my Wi-Fi has just gone down again. What it should do is tell me exactly what that's going to cost at Sainsbury's. I might just see if I can go back a bit. Oh, it didn't like that, did it? I think I need to go back in. I'm just going to take off some of these and see. Let's just take off my recipes. So you can obviously add recipes to the shopping list, but you can also delete recipes. This is a brilliant recipe, this butter chicken, absolutely brilliant. So let's take that Christmas tree pudding pot bread, remove that. So I'm just going to take these away and see if that does it. Oh God. They're lovely, those mini minced beef pies. There we go. Right, let's take that. So I've only got 3 recipes there, so let's see if it prefers that. There we go. I don't know why it's having a head fit a moment ago, but there we go. So in Waitrose, if I was going to buy ingredients for all those recipes, telling me it would cost £55. I've got the opportunity to swap. Obviously, it's selected some branded products that if you don't want to use those branded products, you can swap them for other products. So that's Waitrose. If I click on the down arrow, then I can click on Sainsbury's, and it's going to cost me £42 at Sainsbury's. So this is a brilliant feature, actually, because you can compare prices against the store. And if you go to Ocado, similar price to Sainsbury's, so cheaper than Waitrose. So it means that you've got sort of full control, and you can choose your shopping provider based on, you know, the convenience or price as you wish. So if we just come back to Cookie Do, I just wanted to show you searching again for collections. So if you search recipes, oh yes, okay, darling, I can see you've got your lip balm. Brilliant. That's now going to be all over the sofa. So here I'm searching recipes. I can search my collections, and again, you see there's no filters on there. So that's where you would want to go, and you would want to put your Australia filter on, your Canada filter, your UK filter, and your US filter. So then you've just got those English collections. And then if you think, oh, right, that looks quite good, a few ingredients, I can't talk now. I'm just going to click, oh, I quite like the look of that. Let's have a little look down there. Oh, maybe that's not one for me. I don't know. So no, I don't want that one. Kids Corner. So if I like the look of that, look at some really sweet things. Oh, look at those spaghetti nests with lentil balls. I'm not sure I've got the patience these days to do that, but if you've got young children, that might be quite good fun. You can just click save, you see, and then that will save into your My Recipe collection. If you want to remove it, you just take it away like that. So if I go and have a little look now at My Recipes, I can't quite remember what it was called. What was it called? Kids Corner. So let's go to My Recipes. Scroll down. As you can see, I've got a bit carried away with all of mine. And I've got quite a few. Is it in there? Am I being silly? No, it's not in there. I've taken it off, haven't I? That's why. I know. I want to be a chef. Maybe it just is taking a little while to update, but it will. Oh no, I know why it's not. I know. Let's see if it's updated. It should appear reasonably quickly, although it seems to be letting me down tonight in here. Shout if you see it. It's still not in there, is it? Oh, I don't know. Well, that in theory, that's where it goes, but it seems to have disappeared somewhere else. But you know, you can have a good look through. I would recommend that you spend time looking through Cookie Do, both at the recipe level and at the collection level, and we find that the people that spend more time on Cookie Do, so I know I've got a couple of Susan's friends on here who have Susan is one of my clients who's been fantastic and just loves the Thermomix, uses it with a business, so uses it professionally, but she's a great ambassador for Thermomix, and she tells all her friends about it and then sends them all to me, which is wonderful. But Susan spends an awful lot of time. This one looks good now. I've just seen it. I'm just getting carried away. I do this all the time on team meetings. My team have to rein me in because I start looking at recipes and I think, well, that's fantastic, so let's just save that one while I see it, and hopefully it'll appear somewhere in my folder. Yeah, so Susan sent me lots of customers over the last year or so since she's had her Thermomix, but she loves her Thermomix and she spends hours on Cookie Do looking for things, and I think definitely the more you put in, the more you'll get out of it. So let me just stop broadcasting, come back to you. hopefully I can just come back to Zoom. There we go. So I'll just keep an eye on the chat. I think I'm just going to stop recording actually, so that if you've got any questions, oh no, that's end meeting. I don't want to do that. Recording stopped.